Hello, Accounting Superstars. This is Professor Don Bush from the Accounting Superstar channel. Glad you're here. Hey, I've been a professor for about 30 years and a CPA for about that long, and I've got great ways to explain accounting. You've come to the right place. Hey, I've got a few pictures of where I teach. I teach at Regis University in Denver, Colorado, and it's a really beautiful, beautiful school. You can see all the trees. It's wonderful this time of year. It's like a park or something. And I've got a couple of pictures of where I live here in Colorado. I live up in the foothills, up at 8,500 feet, if you can believe it. It's been beautiful here. So this is what it looks like off my deck. It's absolutely gorgeous. So today's lesson is about how variances work. And variances, a lot of students have a hard time with variances, and understandably so. They're not explained very well, and in the textbook they'll have math formulas. I mean, not hard math, but formulas on how to figure out variances. And I'll tell you what, I could never remember those formulas, but I've got a better way of explaining it, and hopefully a better way to remember it. So what are variances? Well, variances are simply the difference between what was budgeted and what actually happened. That's all what a variance is. It's just the difference between actual and budget. So let's get started here. So what we'll do is we'll do two of these variances. One of them will be for labor. All right. So this is going to be the labor variance right here. All right. So here's how you set it up. It's really, really easy. What you do is on the left-hand side, you put actual. And on the right-hand side, you put budget. And by the way, this is kind of like a odd-looking letter E that fell over. How's that? It's the capital letter E that fell over on its back. And so on the left-hand side, you put actual, and on the right-hand side, you put budget. And the way you can remember this is we read left to right. And so actual is on the left, budget is on the right, and here's a good way to remember it. A comes before B. So you need to know your alphabet. That's the key to it here. If you know your alphabet, you can figure this out. So A comes before B. So that's why I put actual on the left, budget on the right. Now, to also help remember this is that P comes before Q. All right, P comes before Q. So P goes on the left and Q goes on the right. And look over here for budget. P goes on the left, Q goes on the right. P comes before Q. Now the last step to doing this is the inside comes in. The inside comes in. So in other words, the actual quantity comes inside. The budget price comes inside. All right, so that's how you set it up. So one more time, A comes before B, P comes before Q, and the inside comes in. All right, and I got to tell you what, once I realized this, I never had to study this again. In fact, it's been decades since I've studied this. So here's what's going on with this labor variance. Let's suppose that we were doing a construction job for somebody. We're doing a little bit of remodeling, and we budgeted how much it ought to cost us to do this job, and we found out what the actual was. So here's the budget. Let's see what that is. I've got $200, and in a moment you'll see why I put it in this little square here. So altogether we budgeted $200 to get this job done, and what ended up happening is that it cost us $150 to get this job done. So $200 budget, $150 actual. So we think, great, okay, we're under budget. We're under budget. And so what that means is that the total variance, and we can put that right down here, the total variance is $50, and I'm going to put here favorable. I'll put F for favorable. And this is one thing that I tease my students about. I say, well, if you get an F on your test, it means favorable, okay? So, and they never think it's very funny, but I do. I think it's funny. All right, so, okay, so what's going on here? We budgeted $200 to get this job done, and it cost us $150 to get it done. So we're thinking, great, okay, we saved $50. It cost us $50 less than we thought to get this done. And so we will call that favorable. So anytime you're under budget, it's favorable. But then we get to thinking, well, why were we under budget? That's kind of weird that we budgeted $200 and we saved 50. That's kind of weird. Why didn't it cost us $200? So maybe we can figure out, well, what happened? What happened here? So here's what's going on. In the budget, to get this $200, we said, okay, we're going to pay our workers $10 an hour. And it should take them, can you guess here? We're going to pay them $10 an hour and it altogether we budgeted $200. Well, we would expect 20 hours to get it done. So there's a relationship between these numbers right here. All right. 10 times 20 is 200. There we go. So we go, okay, that's what we budgeted, $10 an hour, 20 hours. But what really happened? Well, as it turned out, we ended up paying $15 an hour. Maybe there was a shortage of workers at $10 an hour, and we had to hire people that were, a little more expensive. And when you hire people that are more expensive, usually they're a little bit more skilled too. You hope. So anyway, so how many hours did it take us to do the jobs? Well, you can figure it out. If it cost $150 grand total, and we're paying $15 per hour, well, it must have taken them 10 hours to get the job done. All right, so we're looking at this. We go, okay, well, we paid them more, but it took them much less time. And it all worked out to where $50 favorable, okay? Because the difference between 200 and 150 is 50. All right, so we're wondering, well, how exactly did this work? How did we exactly save money? I mean, the workers cost more, but they were faster. So what was better? All right, so we can figure that out. It's really pretty easy. So what you do is you take the inside, the quantity here, 10, and move it inside. Inside goes in. So we'll put the 10 here. So the inside goes in, and then the inside goes in over here. So $10. So 10 times 10 is 100. There we go. So there we are. So now what we can do is we can figure out the difference between the 150 and the 100 here. So here's how you have to think about it, is that we know the difference between the two is 50, correct? And I've got it here as a negative 50 because the way you want to do it is over here to the left is actual, over to the right is budget. And so consider for the time being that this middle is the budget, okay? Because it does have a budget component here, right? So here's what's going on is that according to this middle number here, we have budgeted 100. And we've got 150 over here, all right? So the difference here is a negative 50 because we're over budget. So we're going, wow, what's going on here? So this is going to be unfavorable because the budget is greater than the actual. Okay, so what are we going to call this though? Well, here's what we're going to call it, is that with this, here we've got quantity, actual quantity, and over here we've got actual quantity. So those are the same thing. But what differs is the price, the actual price, and the budget price. So that's really what the difference is. We're isolating the price difference. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to call it the price variance. Now, fortunately, it follows the same pattern. Look at this. P comes before Q. Well, P comes before Q. Guess what this one's going to be? All right, so you can always remember P comes before Q if you read from left to right. So price variance. So we've got unfavorable. All right, so one more time. How did we get this negative 50? Well, over here on the right side, we've got a budget component here because the actual quantity and the actual, they're the same thing. So it's the budget and the budget price and the actual price that are different. So this represents budget for the time being. So 100 is less than 150. We budgeted 100 and we ended up with 150. So that's unfavorable. So the price variance is unfavorable by 50 bucks. And so what's going on here is that we ended up paying $50 more because the price was greater. The price was greater. So let's see about the quantity. Now we already know that they worked way less time. You know, they budgeted 20 hours, but they really only spent 10 hours on it. So what we're going to do is let's find the difference between 200 and 100. Well, that's 100. And it turns out being a positive 100 because this is budget. And this is, for the time being, is going to represent the actual, or the actual, all right? And the reason why I'm saying that is that we've got budget price and budget price, so those are the same. But the only difference is budget quantity and actual quantity. So we're going to call this the quantity variance, all right? The quantity variance. And it turns out that it's favorable. We budgeted 200, turned out to be 100. So I'm going to put the letter F here for favorable. So here's how it all works out. We've got a quantity variance of 100, favorable, and a price variance, unfavorable, and that nets out to a $50 favorable total variance. Because the quantity variance here is 100, and the price variance is, a negative 50, so it comes out to $50 total variance favorable. So overall, the job went really well. We saved 50 bucks. We did pay more for the workers than we expected, but quantity variance, the number of hours it took them, they saved a lot of time. So overall, this turned out really well. All right, so let's do one more variance. Let's do a materials variance. Let's say it's the same job, exact same job, but we're going to look at the materials. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but lumber prices have been and were very, very expensive here lately for the last 6-8 months or whatever. The prices are coming down a bit. And so let's say that for materials, we budgeted for lumber 80 bucks to do the job. I'm keeping the number small here. And what really happened is, man, the lumber cost $250. It's like, oh man, we spent way more than we thought here. We budgeted 80 and the actual is 250. So our total variance is going to be the difference between the two. So budget 80 really cost 250. Looks like we, spent way more than what we thought. In fact, we spent $170 more. That's the difference between 250 and 80. And this is unfavorable. Okay, so we're thinking, why is it so unfavorable? What happened here? Well, let's see here. Let's say they're 2x4s. And let's say we budgeted $4 a 2x4 and we expected to use 20 2x4s. Okay, price is $4 a 2x4. And it cost us, and the quantity was 20 2x4s. Well, what really happened? What went on? Well, it turned out, oh my goodness, the price was $10 a 2x4. That's a big difference. I mean, that's 2.5 times more, And the quantity, we used 25 instead of 20. Boy, did we misjudge this project. Okay, so we want to look into it a little bit more closely and figure out our price and quantity variances. So here's how it works. We can do that. Is that the quantity here's 25, the inside gets moved in. Inside gets moved in. So the 25 is going to get moved in. And the inside's going to get moved in. So the 4 is going to go on the inside. And 25 times 4 is 100. Okay, so let's figure out these variances. Now, what we're going to do is it's just really easy. On the left-hand side, this is the actual. In the middle here, there's a budget component here. So we're going to consider this the budget, all right? Actual and budget. All right, so we budgeted 100 and it ended up costing us $250. Oh my gosh. $150 over budget, that's unfavorable. unfavorable. So what does this mean? Well, here's what's going on. Is here on the left-hand side, we have quantity. Here in the middle, we have actual quantity, actual quantity, actual quantity. They're the same. No difference between those two. But the price here, here's the actual price, and here's the budget price. All right? Actual price, budget price. So this is called the price variance. And another way to think of it is P comes before Q. Okay, so you write down price on the left-hand side. P comes before Q. It's the same format as P and Q. Okay, so price over here. So what this means is man, we spent $150 more than we were expecting just because the price went up. All right, so let's figure out over here the quantity variance. Now, how did I know it's the quantity variance? Well, there's two ways to know. One way is that over here on the left, this is budget. Over here on the right, this is going to be quantity. How do I know that? Well, budget price, they're the same thing. Budget price, same thing. And but over here we've got actual quantity and budget quantity. So we're figuring out the differences here for quantity, really. Okay, so we're going to call this the quantity variance. And the second way that I know this is P comes before Q. All right, so P comes before Q. This has got to be the quantity variance. So this has to do with the number of 2x4s that we used. So we've got here 80 and 100. Well, 80 is our budget and 100 is our actual, because here's the actual. And if you find the difference between these two, we get a negative 20. Oh, so here's what's going on. Here's what's going on in a nutshell, is that we budgeted $80 for this job in regard to 2x4s, and it ended up costing us $250, and we're kind of like flipping out. It's like, wow, this is way, way, way over budget. What happened here? Well, what we did is we found out that most of the difference, by the way, is the total variance, a negative $170. That most of the difference is because the price went up. The price went up. Now, when prices go up like that, you really can't control it. It is what it is. A little bit of bad luck here. We thought it would be $4 a 2x4. It ended up being $10 a 2x4. So that was a bit of bad luck there. Just bad timing. But we also used more 2x4s than we thought. We thought we would use 20, but we ended up using 25. And that cost us another $20 because of using, more of them. And by the way, the 5 extra 2x4s at the budgeted price of $4 a 2x4. So 5 times 4 is 20. That's how we got that, essentially. And so the price variance, unfavorable. The quantity variance, unfavorable. So the total variance is unfavorable. Okay, so to wrap it up and to put it all in a nutshell, how can you remember this? Well, what you do is draw the letter E laying down on its back. All right, and actual goes on the left, budget goes on the right. How can you remember this? Well, we read left to right. A comes before B. And then we put price and quantity. How do we remember that? Well, P comes before Q. All right, and P comes before Q. And then what you do is the inside comes in. The inside comes in. And that way you're all set up. And this is a good way to understand variances. And the purpose of variances are to dig in deeper to find out, well, why are we off budget? Why are we why are we over budget? Or sometimes being under budget can be a bad thing too. And to give you an example is, suppose that we operate a not-for-profit, and our job for our not-for-profit is to feed homeless children. Okay, and let's suppose that the state of Colorado said, hey, we're going to award you and your not-for-profit $5 million to feed homeless children in Denver for the next year. And we go, wow, that's cool, great. And so the year goes by and we feed those homeless kids, and end of the year, we need to report to the state and we go, hey, state of Colorado, we did a great job for you. You're going to give us $5 million. Well, guess what? We saved the state of Colorado $4 million. Turned out those little kids could live on a whole lot less food than we all thought. We only spent $1 million on food for the homeless kids, and I know that's kind of a ridiculous and sad example, but it's an example of where being under budget is probably not a good thing. It'd be better to, if the state wants to spend $5 million feeding homeless kids, we need to spend $5 million spending homeless or feeding homeless kids. All right. So anyways, so the point of the whole thing is sometimes being under budget is not a good thing also. All right, so these variances just help us understand what's going on. Why are we over? Why are we under? What happened? So hope this lesson helped. Check out my website, accountingsuperstars.com. And I've got, I've got all my videos on accountingsuperstars.com listed by topic. Also, hit the like and subscribe button. That way YouTube knows that you like these videos, and I know you like them, and I'll keep making more for you. So until next time, over and out.